Hi, I'm Paige from PaigeeWorld, and in today's tutorial I'm going to teach you how to color a character. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the hair color, and right now I really love the champagne color. I think it looks really good. I also like ash rose, but I'm going to make the hair a little bit darker. So I'm starting with champagne instead of ash rose. So this color is E71, and ash rose is E70, but I'm not using that one right now. But they're good complementary. So when I color hair, I always pick one point in which my marker comes from. So if you notice, I always bring it back to one spot. And my marker's kind of running out of ink. So don't worry about the hair, like the marker streaking at all at this point, because this is the base color of the hair. So you're going to put other markers on it. So if your marker does happen to be dying, you can probably make do with it, depending on how low the ink is. Right now my marker is just barely going to make it. That's alright. So the only problem about using markers that are dying is that's when you have to replace the nib. So if you have a sketch and you refill it, if you use your marker a lot while it's dying, you start pressing harder on the marker, and as you can see, the tip of my pen has kind of bent and it isn't as firm anymore. So whenever you do that, you're going to want to make sure you replace the tip on your pen. So here, I'm just gonna. So I just got a new marker for this one. So as you can see, the nib on this one, it's not bendy, it's really, really like firm. So when you color with it, it's much nicer and it stays within the lines. So that's why it's important to make sure you always change the tips of your markers. I just want to get the face done. The hair. And when you're drawing, you're going to want to make sure that you have clean hands. So if you've sketched and you have like pencil marks all over your hands, you're going to make sure when you color, you clean them. Because if they're not clean, sometimes you brush your hand against the paper, the pencil comes back onto the page and it becomes really dirty and it won't look as nice. What you want to do though is try to be careful, try to keep your hand away from where you're coloring. Because I'm not doing a background, I can keep my hand on this side and kind of hover over the paper. But if not, what's always good is if you get a piece of paper and you rest your hand on it, and then you don't have to worry. If you have thin paper, it's always good to have a piece of paper underneath your hand while you're coloring, because sometimes your hand can add a little bit of humidity to the paper and the paper will actually bend. So depending on how sensitive your paper is, that can happen. So you always want to try to keep your hands away from the area where you're coloring. So I'm almost done here. But when I'm coloring, I'm putting all my weight on my wrist so that I barely touch the paper. So my fingers are slightly grazing the paper, but it's not staying on there for a long period of time. But, there's certain types of paper that I use that if I keep my hand on paper, it buckles and then it's all weird. So it's good tip to know. So I just have the base color of the hair done. I'm going to move on to doing the second color. So I'm using E57, which is a light walnut. It's one of my favorite colors to use for hair. It's like a nice medium light brown. And as you can see, the color is much different than what the base is, but I think it's going to look really cool. So because I decided my light source is coming from here, I want to make sure there's more hair shine on this side than there is on this side. So as you can see, streaks on the hair don't really matter as much because it just ends up turning into a nice texture. And right here is where my marker is most streaky. What's going to end up happening is I'm going to start coloring the top of the head soon, so it won't really be noticeable. The base coat is there just so it can just be like a cushiony layer. So once you pile more ink on, you just won't notice the streaks as much. It also does matter because the color of the hair does change. So my walnut color is blending in with the champagne color. So if I just had this color on its own and like this color in certain areas, you would actually notice. So that's why you color the entire hair with the base. When you're coloring around the face, just be really careful not to get the color in there because it's very pale, so you don't want the dark color in. Okay, so I just finished coloring the bottom half of the hair. Now I'm going to work on the top. So again, as I said earlier, you want one point in which all your strokes are coming from. So I've kind of chose it's around here. So I'm going to color. I just go around. Okay, so now that I have that, I'm going to use my base color and I'm just going to smoothen out some of the lines. Just because I don't want them to be super noticeable. So now that I blended that in, I'm going to use a darker color, much darker color, E47, and this is just going to add a little bit of richness to the hair color. And I'm just going to use it in certain spots. You can use more colors in the hair. Sometimes I use up to 5 markers for one hair color, but I'm just going to use 3 for today. So as you can see, it just adds a lot of texture to the hair. It's really nice. Then you're going to want to use a lot of dark color for the bottom of the hair, only because your hair is lighter on the top of your head. So on the bottom, your hair is much darker. So I always use that same bit of info for when I color characters. Also makes your character look much more interesting, in my opinion. Okay. And I'm just going to use a tiny bit on the top. I'm just using my base again, just to blend. So coloring the hair always, in my opinion, takes the longest amount of time, but I actually find it one of the funnest things to color. Right now I am just adding random lines of the base color of the hair just to add some texture. So I just finished coloring the hair. I'm just going to figure out what colors I'm going to use next. Thank you for watching my tutorial on how to color a character. Please subscribe to my channel for the latest videos. Please download my app on the App Store, PaigeeWorld.